Good afternoon and welcome to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. Tonya Esquibel, Southeast Regional Producing Manager with Cross Country Mortgage. We are here every Saturday from noon to 1 to help provide education for all of your real estate needs. My co-host, Kim Hollingshead, is here in studio with me, real estate attorney, owner of Hollingshead & Associates. And our theme for this month of February has been about the encouragement of home ownership and providing education on where we're looking at Nashville when it comes to consumer confidence, and interest rates have lowered as we've came into, the first month of this year. So it's still a wonderful time to buy. And our goal this month was to bring in local expert real estate professionals to come in and talk about what they're seeing and to help you feel comfortable with making a move when it comes to purchasing maybe your first home. It could be an investment home or a move-up home. Excited today. Kim has brought in another wonderful guest that she's been working with. Her name is Addy Biggers, and she is the managing broker of the Crylike office in Brentwood. And I don't want to steal her thunder, but I've gotten so impressed just hearing a little bit of her story and stats before the opening of the show. So, Addy, welcome. Thank you for coming in and taking your time to educate our listeners. We're super passionate about, that's why I love Kim. She's passionate about educating people too, and that's kind of my passion as well. And it sounds like you being a managing broker and the success that where you're at in the nation as a company is awesome. So tell our listeners first a little bit before we jump into business, just about you and how you got into Nashville, how long you've been here, and your journey.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Absolutely. Well, I am kind of one of those unicorns that I've been in Nashville for over 40 years. I don't think there's a lot of people who are like us who have been here. So part of getting into real estate is honestly just getting the chance to show Nashville off. We have lots of people who move from other places, and I just like being that resource, not only to help them find the home that they will love, that I know that they're going to love, but just to get them plugged into the community, to get them, help them find things that they may not even know they needed, right? So just, I think being from here, having been here since 1983, really helps with that. But goodness, so many reasons for why I got into real estate. Maybe just kind of to start off what I did before. 20 years before I got my real estate license, I worked in startups and turnarounds in the healthcare IT space. And I really enjoy what I did there in building, as far as like building businesses and help them become successful, or stepping into a distressed business and help them become successful. But what I didn't enjoy was the disconnect with helping people directly. And it was after buying my current home. Actually, it was about a year after I bought my current home, my realtor called and said, "Do you not like your home?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I love my home. And she said, "Well, we haven't discontinued your account, and I can see that you have looked at 1,400 houses over the last year after you closed."
That is
so I'm like, I was looking for other people. And it was kind of at the perfect timing. And she called and said she was expanding her team. And I was at a point in my life where I needed a change. I really needed that personal connection. And I wanted to leverage my background in negotiations, in navigating very difficult situations, and applying that to helping people navigate the buying process, the selling process, and really thought that that was a natural fit.
Because being a strong negotiator is one of the hallmarks of being a real estate agent. I mean, I know real estate agents to win over $1. They don't care what it is. You walk into any car buying situation, a flea market, anything with a real estate agent, and it just rings their bells to be able to win that negotiation. And I love that you have that corporate background. That corporate, and you said it's in high tech field as well.
That's right.
And then you bring that knowledge and that experience to real estate, into your real estate practice. So how has that impacted your real estate, and what skills have you brought to the table from that?
For me, it was, whether it was high tech or whether it was patient care, it was really more about the startup and the turnaround aspect of it, is having to be able to work with what you have to work with. So for real estate, it's whatever it is, right? The market conditions, any of the external factors, and being able to navigate through different challenges and being creative in how you solve those problems. My mentor might post,
Great guy.
Still call him my coach, my mentor, although technically now he's like, I think you're like my boss now. But, you guys remember not that long ago when people were writing 10, 12, 14 offers for their buyers. Yes. I wrote 2 per buyer.
Wow.
And I had a lot of buyers. And Mike was like, how do you do that? But again, it's learning how to work creatively and differently and tapping into those skills, having built and turnaround businesses.
And quick adjustments to the market.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right?
And not doing the obvious things. I was very good at using tools and technology to look for property, but guess what? Every agent has those tools, right?
Right.
But what I did differently was maybe some of the not so obvious things. If I had a buyer who was looking in a very specific area, I looked for property, but more importantly, I looked for the agents who had success in listing in those areas and contacted them and became their friends and told my clients stories and making it very intentional to meet with people who I know who would be willing to be collaborative and work to help my clients achieve their goals. Because, we come from a place and a perspective that there's enough sun to shine on everybody. And
we agree.
Yeah.
It's all about collaboration, not competition. And I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Strategic relationship building.
Intentionality.
Yes, being professional in your field. So I know I hear sometimes stories where I'll hear an agent be like, I'm not going to accept that contract. I cannot work with that agent, or the clients usually maybe don't have a good pre-approval and it'll fall apart. And so that was a huge, I think, decision-making process in this last environment. Absolutely. And the strong, obviously doing 2 per buyer. That's amazing. Congratulations. Because that was very hard in this environment.
It was, yeah.
It was very hard, but it was like, for me, as you know, she knows my personality. It was like, okay, it's hard, bring it. Because now it's just a greater challenge and a bigger reward and greater satisfaction that comes along with that.
So what do you see your challenges right now, since we're kind of out of that market? Because it kind of turned from what I saw on the mortgage side of it around July of last year. How do you, because like you talked about opening up, you've got to learn and turn quick too, to stay on top of it.
I think the greatest challenge now is education and bridging that gap and being able to have conversations with all the parties involved of how to make things successful, educating your sellers as to how to price and what incentives to offer that could be more impactful for your prospective buyers to attract buyers. Like, let's stop selling, let's start attracting people.
That's good.
I have a listing that before we make any adjustments, let's talk through at this price point, X amount off the current list price isn't going to attract any more buyers. However, if you offer an incentive towards a potential buyer's closing costs, whether they can use that for buy downs or just taking less money to the table, that could be more impactful. And on the flip side, working with buyers, helping them understand that, okay, so let's take a look at the last 30 years, right? So on average, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, the average for the rate for the last 30 years has been around 7.76, thereabouts. So this is not high. This is not crazy.
Right.
It's complex, but it's not crazy. And there are definitely ways that we can work around this.
Yeah.
As buyers, you're in a more favorable position now in this market than you have been in the last 3 years. So let's leverage that. Let's negotiate for what could make it possible for you to close on the property that you want.
Yeah. And that's a very good strategic approach too, because we did get spoiled so many years from the buyer's standpoint of where rates were. But as you said, I mean, they're still below historical average, and it's a healthy market. I feel like we're just back to a normal market versus the highs and lows that we had in stabilizing. So we got to take a break. When we come back, be sure and stay tuned. We're in studio with Addy Biggers. She is the managing broker for the Brentwood office of Crylike, and we're learning about her journey into the real estate business. And also, we're going to continue to talk about some of the successes that she's had with her agents, consumers, and those national rankings just blew my mind. So stay tuned. What a fun show today, learning all about you. Kim, as always, surprising us with some great negotiation skills that you have that we were just talking about before the air. But also, Addy Biggers is with us, managing broker for Crylike in Brentwood. And she's got some great tips and negotiation, strategic ways to be able to navigate through this market. So thank you again for coming in and sharing your knowledge. And I want to tell our listeners a little bit about, some of the approaches that we talked about off the air, because you manage, how many agents you manage. That's a full-time job. Plus you're amazing selling and helping clients to buy homes too. So give us a little bit about what your day looks like when you wake up.
Oh my goodness. It's exciting. Well, I think the easiest thing for me is that I don't require a lot of sleep. I never have. So my day starts really early. I'm up probably 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
I take my time for myself, and then I hit the gym from 5 to 6. I still do all the things that I coach my agents to do. So, I'm doing the handwritten notes every day to my sphere of influence, because who doesn't like a handwritten note? We love that. I take a look at my day. I take a look at who I'm working with, what the most pressing issues are, kind of review what's happened throughout the week, the day before, which agents are coming in to see me specifically, if we have any sales meetings or any meetings at all scheduled for the day, what that looks like, just final touches on those game planning things. But I'm in the office every day. So I get to the office by 8:30, and I stay until usually 1:30 or 2. Because one of the things that I do like, even with all the things that I do, I am going to hop out, and be in that car pickup line for my daughter. But I think what my agents like is that they know that I'm going to be there. They can count on that. If I'm not going to be there, they know who the backups are. And we have amazing support in our office. Our regional vice president uses an office in our building. My coach and mentor is still there. We have incredible agents who are so willing to mentor and share with some of our newer agents. And, people need people.
Yeah, and really, Crylike is one of the most trusted brands for any real estate brokerage, I would say, here in Middle Tennessee. It's a very well-known name and very well established. And the role of a managing broker is so important. And I think it's really kind of a milestone in an agent's career. Any agent who has reached the point where they're able to lead other agents. And not only that, but you're actually, under track regulations and under state law, you're actually responsible for everything that your agents do, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why the training, the meetings, the advising, all of that is so important. And you have some excellent tips as far as negotiating, right? So you were kind of sharing that with Tonya earlier about, telling your agents, like, hey, don't call this a crazy market. Don't say these are crazy rates.
Right. We don't call anything crazy. Who makes good decisions when they're crazy? Nobody's making good decisions when you're crazy or feeling crazy. So we just take that word out of our vocabulary altogether. Let's replace it with something. Is it challenging? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it complex? Yes. Yeah. And that's why they need you. That's why they need the expertise and guidance of an agent to work through complex situations, to work through a complex market. Because let's be honest, when is it not? Because depending on all the external factors, somebody's going to have an advantage on a side of a deal. But let's learn to help people navigate through those complicated situations.
Right, because otherwise, why would you need an agent? Why would you need a mortgage loan officer? Why would you need a title attorney? If you can do it all on your own.
Exactly. I mean, we talk about how problems are a gift, and they are. They truly are a gift. And I think that's where, as agents, you can really show where your skills can shine.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when they come to you and they say, well, and something as simple as a repair. What do I do? And, the sellers buyers tend to look at a home inspection report and, oh my gosh, what am I buying? Or a seller will receive a repair amendment and go, they're asking for all of this. Are you kidding me? And yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity for an agent to step in and go, hey guys, this is how we're going to handle the situation.
That's right. And, we teach our agents to keep a cool head. Cool heads prevail. And, also important is to coach, teaching them how to coach and counsel their clients as well. So on the seller side, I go into a meeting and part of what I share is that let's all remember and agree today that there's no such thing as a lowball offer, correct? There's no such thing as an insulting offer, correct? Like, there are people, as buyers, they're going to want to pay as little as possible. As a seller, you're going to want to make as much as possible. Yeah. I want you to make as much as possible. But offers are offers, and they're a gift. We receive them. We don't like the number. We counter. So, and we work it until we don't want to work it. But we receive everything as a gift. And, perspective matters.
As an opportunity.
Words matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good.
I like that too.
Yeah, it's very wise.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and it keeps her head in the game, doesn't it, Tonya?
Yeah, and it keeps you focused on the positive and not the negative, and it keeps you keeping the seller or the buyer calm, whoever you're representing, through that too, when you have a different approach of how to handle those challenges. So it's kind of like, I love the fact of for years, because I started off as assistant loan officer, processor, underwriter, closing, run operations. And so I love it when a client comes to me that's been denied by 2 or 3 other clients, because there's the opportunity, there's the challenge, there's the, that sometimes is the biggest win, because, they were so defeated that they weren't going to get approved. And then they're the ones that are just so grateful as we work together to figure it out and to come up with strategies of how to get them, to that CTC. Let's get you closing.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've got to sing Kay's praises a little bit here, because so Kay Clark is a senior processor in my office, and we're talking about taking challenges and problems and turning them into something that's really golden, and being able to help people. Because why are we in this business? We're in the business to help people, right?
That's right.
And we only get to help them if there's a problem. Well, one of our agents who had attended a CE class that I taught earlier in the summer, I teach a CE class about divorce and probate, and just help, like you said, giving agents the language and the tools that they need to help their clients and navigate these challenging times in their lives. And he had attended the class. He calls Kay months later and says, I've been denied by 3 title companies. No one can solve this problem. No one can figure out how to close this probate deal that I've got. If I send you everything, will you please help me? And we're talking about, this probate was like 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
A long time ago. And title companies, he was handing the contract over to title companies. They were running prelim title work on it, and then calling him and going, I'm sorry, but we can't do this for you. It's just, we're just not going to be able to handle this. And Kay gets it, and she calls me and says, this is the winning mindset, right? No matter what, I'm closing this transaction. It's a matter of pride for her now. No one's going to bring her a deal that she can't close. Okay?
That's right.
It's taken a little longer than maybe everybody would have wanted, but she is getting this done now.
She's getting it done.
And so she's actually going to help people, which is the whole point of everything that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels better, right? When you have those, what seems to be insurmountable and what was insurmountable to someone else. And it's like, okay, yes, it's hard, but that's where you differentiate yourself. You're not afraid to do the hard stuff.
Yeah, that's where it feels good. And you can't do that on every transaction, but we'll throw one in every once in a while.
If it gets too easy, right, then you'll get bored doing it.
That's right.
So you were talking about the markets, and is there ever really an easy market? And I was sitting here thinking about that, and I was like, I've been doing this for 28 years, and I've never lived through the same market. Every market is different, and I think that's what I fell in love with the business, is because every consumer's financial story is different. I always say financial DNA is different.
That's right.
The extenuating circumstances are, like you said, are different. And so I think that is, you have to, so when I think about teams and coaching other people and training them, you have to, let them know that, like, what you're learning today might it's just a stepping stone to so much more that you're going to be learning throughout your entire career. And then you have to go back and go, wait, I had that happen one time. And sometimes the things that you remember the most is the mistake that happened or the problem that happened. And you're like, I'll never let that happen again. So I think that's good advice as a leader, and especially, keeping your agents focused on the positive and not just focusing on, that's a lowball offer. This is a crazy market. I like that because it sets that whole tone for consumers. We got to take a break, and we come back. We'll continue on and wrapping up our show here on the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show here every Saturday from noon to 1. I'm Tonya Esquibel with Cross Country Mortgage, here with my co-host Kim Hollingshead and Associates, real estate attorney, and here we are with Addy Biggers, managing broker of the Brentwood Cry-like office. And it's been so fun listening to your knowledge and your wisdom and just your coaching skills and your spirit of helping not only your consumers, but also your agents too. So we were talking off the air. Kim had a great question that I thought would be really a great way to lead into this segment to educate any real estate professionals that might be out there. Because a lot of real estate professionals are challenged right now, and they're looking for leadership. They're looking for good companies to go to support them and to help them through, a different market than what it was last year.
Yeah, and we know that so many real estate agents that are out there today did not actually sell real estate before the pandemic. Right. They're like little pandemic babies.
That's right.
They only know the height of the market, right? They've not ever seen anything else. So the question that I asked was, what have your agents taught you since you've become the managing broker? And I know my staff, they teach me every day. I know Tonya would say the same thing, that her staff teaches her every day. So what have you learned from your agents?
To be patient and flexible. And, we have a lot of empathy towards our clients. And for me, it's learning empathy towards my agents as well and tapping into what it is that they need and what I want out of them. And what I want out of them is I love seeing people grow. I love seeing people shine and just trying to work with them. And the best way I can do that is to get people into the office. So that's my biggest challenge right now. Because like you said, these are pandemic babies, right? So like a lot of them are pandemic babies, and they've grown accustomed to being out there on their own islands, working on their own if they're not seeing a client. And my observation is, at least for my office, the ones who are on the top sales leaderboards, coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, are the ones who are coming to the office. People need people, and I think employers have seen that too. You see it, right? Google, Amazon, everybody is calling people back to the office because people need people.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because retail is down a bit. We've seen some stores close, their local retail locations. We're seeing a little bit of a decline in that, but really office space has gone down so dramatically over the last year. But I think you guys both, Tonya and Addy, you guys both make a great point in that I think we're going to see a turnaround in that people are going to start coming back to the office. We're going to see a rise in office rates again.
Yes. There's so much value, even hearing an agent vent, listening to an agent vent about an issue that they're dealing with, try to resolve, just learning from that and having others hear and learn from that. There's so much value. It doesn't have to be an organized meeting. It doesn't have to be a very specific purpose. Just being around others who are doing the same work that you do, it's just helpful.
It's the law of attraction. Who you're hanging out with, who you're hanging around with.
That's right.
That's right. Ed Milet's book, The Power of One More, he talks about this. Tony Robbins also talks about this concept that you are the company that you keep, the top 5 people you keep. So I love that you use that number. You said the top 5 agents. And look, you know what you're talking about because this Cry-like office is one of the top real estate offices, not only in Tennessee, but in the country.
That's right.
So you run a very large staff of agents.
I do. And I'm hoping to see more and more of them come in. And it's very intentional. I like to be slow to hire. Like I want to make sure that it's a good match and that I'm a good match for an agent who's coming in and that, we are going to feed off and build off of each other's energy. So that is so key. I mean, agents have the right and opportunity to go and interview and join whichever brokerage they want, and there's lots of great choices. But for us, it's we need to take the time to make sure that it's good for all parties involved.
A good culture fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. With some of your agents, I like the term, the pandemic babies. That was a good term.
That's a very good term.
What are, is any of those top 5 one of those that are coming in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I would hope to have him on your show sometime soon, or at least have come and listen, because this young agent was our Rookie of the Year for our region, and he was recognized earlier this week, but he was also our Relocations Department's Rookie of the Year. And that's because he's in the office, he's going to our relocation department, raising his hand to say, I will do the work that nobody else wants to do. I will take the client who's just here and wanting to see rental property, because he has the wherewithal to understand that that person who is renting, especially in our market, is probably going to become a buyer very soon after they see the rent rates, right?
Yes.
That's right.
But just that willingness, and that comes from being around myself, being around Mike, being around Eddie, being around Harold Cry, who still comes into the office, to really just give him, tips and what to do, and encourage the willingness to get out there and do. Like, we got you. Like, you're not alone.
Harold is a legend. So if you have access to be able to ask him any question you want,
That's right.
you take advantage of that opportunity.
And we don't teach fake it till you make it. No, let's not do that. You have resources.
Yeah.
Take a moment.
Yes.
Make a phone call.
Yeah.
We've got you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So from a standpoint, you had mentioned that the bar needed to be raised for real estate agents. What does that look like? Is that possible to change? Is there an active group that's involved to try to raise those standards? Because I do think it's a good timing to do it, because you've got so many agents that are exiting the market the last 6 months. And if we raise those standards now, then that will keep the market more professional.
I would love to see one. I'm not aware of one. If there is a committee, can I sign up and join that? Because I have opinions, believe it or not.
I was thinking you might lead it.
Right. If there's not one, let's get one formed. But, just very recently, I'm working a transaction, and I'm coaching the agent on the other side. But for me, that's my personality, and I'm just sitting here and I'm recounting the story to just a staff member. She's like, well, does she know that she's lucky that was you? Because it could just be a really bad experience.
Right.
For someone who's brand new and they're working with someone who's not as kind, and just reminding them, I've been in the business whatever many years and you're new. But that gets us nowhere. But I do want to see the bar raise. To obtain a license and to maintain a license. 16 credit hours over 2 years, your first 2 years to keep your license. Really, though?
I've heard a suggestion of a minimum transaction.
I would love that.
You would love to see that?
Yes, I think that would be good.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Because, Tonya does a great job of asking questions of real estate agents and the guests that we have on the show. But I want to ask a question about your mortgage loan officers, and why is it so important for a real estate agent to have a really strong mortgage loan officer to help them through the deal, and why is your loan officer your best friend in the transaction?
I mean, that's where it starts. Yeah.
Yes.
That's absolutely where it starts. Right. And your partners are an extension of you. For me, I'm very protective about the partnerships that I've formed, and for good reasons. To me, what makes a good lender, a good loan officer, is someone who is going to dig deep. We've all had deals who've had to been saved, right? Like I've had clients who come in with their choices that they've made already, but I always keep my recommendations in my back pocket, and for very good reasons. Just an example, I've had a client just kind of felt like, I don't know if I can even do this because there's a bankruptcy. And I've already talked to other folks, and because of when that was discharged and when it happened, I have to hit pause. I said, I'm not sure that you do. I said, but I don't want to get your hopes up because that's not my world. I stay in my lane. So I referred the client to somebody I know and trust. And, he called and let me know. He said, we absolutely can do this because of the reason for the bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
There were some extenuating circumstances that nobody else even asked about. So you have to go deeper. You can't just be on the surface.
Yeah.
And I also like people who, I don't like the answer no. Maybe it's not right now, but also who aren't going to belittle or judge my precious clients, people that I love and want to protect. It's just not right now. It's okay. But let's find a path to get people on their way.
Exactly. I love that story about the bankruptcy, right, Tonya? Because that goes to illustrate exactly what you've been telling the listeners this whole time, which is that you can't just Google the answer.
No.
Right?
Or just talk to one or two companies, because it goes to the knowledge of that loan officer. Were they in a call center and just answering the phone?
Correct.
And a lot of your internet companies are like that. And you've got to have someone that has the experience, that will dig deeper, that knows the guidelines. And that's where I was saying in our season, you never stop learning, because guidelines are always changing too.
Right.
And so you have to always keep looking and searching. And, that's the main thing, is to encourage people. It doesn't cost you anything to get a second opinion or a third opinion, but it could cost you a lot of wealth by waiting and not trying.
Absolutely. People don't know what they don't know, especially our first-time home buyers. I mean, they don't know the questions to ask. I think that's why they're my favorite. I think those are the folks who have the greatest opportunity to help and to enjoy the process with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break, and we come back, we'll continue on. I want to talk a little bit about first-time home buyers and what their perception that you're seeing from you and your agents coming into this year. Stay tuned. You're listening to Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Our theme this month in February, if you've missed our other shows this month, please go check us out on our podcast and our YouTube channel. That was one of our goals, that we were going to launch on more social media platforms to help provide education the way that people want to listen to it. So, and take notes if you want, and not be driving down the road trying to take notes. So thank you for the loyal listeners that I've had for all these years, and looking forward to being able to put the content out there in different manners to be able to continue to educate. And we're actually in studio with Kim Hollingshead, my co-host, Hollingshead and Associates, and also Addy Biggers, which is the managing broker for Crylike and Brentwood, and just some great input, some great advice. And I can tell why you're one of the top in the nation, because of your leadership skills and coaching your agents through the market changes, which are constant. It's not just, oh, this never happened, or yes, how do I navigate through this? It's a navigation every single day. So I appreciate you coming in and providing us with some of your education and knowledge and success stories. I know we're talking about first-time home buyers, which is
people.
And we talked about, sometimes making sure that you're not just giving up. We talked about, don't go Google how to get a loan done, really sit down with an expert. And then, sometimes, because it starts with the loan officer, and if they don't interview and ask the right questions, you might have got denied once or twice. Right. And I like how you said, I come from an underwriting background, so you've got to dig deeper. You've got to really try to ask all of the questions, because the consumer doesn't know what you don't know. And so when I'm interviewing a client, I'm like, I've got my underwriting hat back here. I've got my consumer fun hat up here, but you've got to really listen, and you've got to know the right questions to ask, not just, everyone now has to usually go online to start the application. And I usually train my team, don't just take that application. It's probably, if it's a first-time home buyer, it's the first time they probably filled one out. Maybe the second time they filled one out. They don't know really what they're filling out. So when it says income, they might say they make $50,000, but they might have wrote off 20,000. So now they only make 30. You have to re-interview. And so I always want to encourage, if you've been denied by another bank or lender, please don't give up. And that's why we always say, as your local expert, that's why we're passionate about doing this show and now putting it on investing and putting it on other platforms to be able to give people hope. I liked what you said too. It's not no, it's when, as far as, what's our next step? What does that look like? I always think of it as when you think of going back, 50 years ago, you had to get the atlas out to figure out where you're going if you'd make the wrong turn and you're just trying to guess through it, or now you can put in the GPS and it tells you the fastest routes, how to get there, if there's construction. So that is what it's like with getting a loan. I mean, it is a process, and there could be some few little roadblocks, but are you working with the right person to help you get through those roadblocks efficiently and timely as possible? So thank you for bringing up those really great points, and you, Kim, as well, and chiming in because you see it all the time too. So Addy, what do we want to talk about as we're wrapping up the show? Should we find out what you like to do for fun?
Oh, goodness.
Well, I heard you run a half marathon.
I mean, I've done that.
Like 1,000 miles like you ran
last year. But I mean, it's a talent though to be able to gain weight while training. I think anybody can lose weight while they run 1,000 miles a year. But so my real passion is food, if you're not hearing that. And you can't outrun a bad diet, but it is so yummy.
It's so worth it.
It's so worth it. Like, calories don't even count on the weekends now. I actually love health and wellness. My degree from Belmont, I mean, we called it, health and human performance to make it fancy because it was from Belmont. But let's face it, it's a PE degree, right? So I in my spare time, I run. I love Orange Theory, like self-proclaimed fanatic. And if I enter any of their competitions, like I have to win. Like I have to.
Yeah.
But equally, in equal measures, I love food and I love our food scene. And I think that's why I like so much helping people who move here from other places. So I get to show off Nashville, and I get to be their tour guide. I get to, introduce them to how fantastic we've evolved over, especially in the food scene. So
the lifestyle of Nashville.
That's it.
Yeah. There is definitely a lifestyle here for sure. So the city has changed so much. I would say just like in the past 5 years, it's really transformed. What have you noticed has changed in Nashville? And when you have clients from out of state, I mean, what are they looking for when they move here? I've always been kind of curious about that. I've never really heard anyone say, explain like, what is it about this city in particular that people from other states want to live here so badly?
Yeah, their draw to Nashville. I mean, I think for me, I hear that I get a lot of tax refugees. I was trying to clean that up a little bit, but no,
there's no other way to say it.
But, I remember a few years ago when the tax increase for Davidson County was 34% when it was proposed. Even in the proposal process, just kind of like, the reaction to that was everybody's going to leave. I'm like, guys, 34% of not a lot is still not a lot. And when I show these numbers to my clients who are moving from other states, and I'm showing them their property tax estimates, and they're like, is that monthly? No, that's your annual tax rate. And so lots of things though. I mean, we're nice. We have good weather. We have great options for schools. Lots of draws to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's slowing down, which excites me.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And having been here for 40 years, I like the changes. I like what it's brought in. Some of my neighborhoods that, running through as a kid, I like seeing how things have evolved. My dad, kind of a funny story. We're in the States because of him. My dad was in the proxy U.S. Army. When they withdrew, we had to withdraw. But I do a lot of his medical caretaking now, along with my sisters and brothers. But we went to Vanderbilt for a visit, and then on the drive home, now my daddy doesn't say much. He goes, "I'm not embarrassed to live here now." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, when we moved here in '83, this place was barely livable." I'm like, "Daddy, we came from a literal third world country. How was barely livable by comparison. And he was like, well, I'm just saying I'm happy to live here now.
I mean, I remember being here in college, and it was such a different town. You know, being over on 21st Avenue and being in Bosco's. Do you remember Bosco's?
Yes. I don't remember Bosco's.
From back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even the Gulch. Like, do you remember Roussan?
That's right.
I
know
Roussans. I loved Roussans.
Yeah.
That was a big deal to have Roussans. And then, you know, and now look at the city. I mean, now we have a ramen place that serves actual real ramen, you guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
As an Asian person, that's a big deal for us.
That's a big deal.
Mine was the poke bowls when we finally got them, because my daughter in California, I would go there and get them, and we didn't have any good places.
But we've got biscuits now. We've got the biscuits.
We've always had the good biscuits.
And Fifth and Broad is so fun, like so fun.
Yeah, it's really changed.
You know,
the Gulch is amazing.
I had some friends who from my work past wanted to get together. I'm like, let's go to the food hall. They're like, you want to go to a food hall? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is a different type of food hall.
It's a really cool food hall. It really is. So no, I just we're wrapping up our show here today. So thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And sharing everything with our listeners. We'll have to have you back on. Absolutely. And congratulations on your success. And just know you guys are you're going to double probably this year with the vision and stuff that you have with your team, and trying to get them back in the office and mentoring after those top 5 that continue to stay in the top 5 of your office. So Kim, thank you as always for bringing in a wonderful guest. It was great to meet you. And be sure and tune in next week from noon to 1. Have a blessed week right here on the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show.